I always try to show that I'm doing things perfectly. Like I always have a plan and I execute it. And maybe I don't set the bar high enough as part of it. Like I'm afraid to fail. So I sort of maybe let myself off a little bit sometimes. And so for this one, we set a pretty aggressive A goal and a pretty good B goal too. And I didn't even hit that one. So I was going for a C goal. And that was the first time that's ever happened to me.
Hello and welcome to the Free Outside Podcast. This is a great episode. I get into things with Jeff Pelletier. Nailed the pronunciation once again. He's a great trail runner. He's a YouTuber. He's a friend, a filmmaker, and he's been everywhere. But we talk a lot about Badwater 135, the hottest race in the world. So hot right now. And we talk about the Mammoth 200. He did both of those in this past year. He paced me at Coca-Dona, the race that I had COVID at. So wonderful. So we hit on that. We hit on filmmaking. We hit on all those things. I hope you enjoy that. If you want to support the show, patreon.com. And some big things are happening. And I want to start the show by giving a thanks to you guys and reading some of the recent 5-star reviews. So here we go. I told you if you review it, I will read it. These are from Apple Podcasts, and they're great. All right, here we go. This person gave 5 stars and said, "Bird talk." This is from Buster. 1 star. Came here hoping for some yellow-rumped warbler talk, but instead got a great podcast about trail running and through hiking, hoping for more bird talk in the future. So during Javelina, it was the evening, and it was like, I'm not ready to go to bed. I think I want to pace somebody. And so I looked around, asked around for whoever needed a pacer, and I found somebody. And he told me he goes by Buster, which he said was a joke. And then I started making up things like I'm really into bird watching and stuff. And so that kind of set the tone for the entire time pacing. I'm in a Santa suit at this outfit in the middle of the Arizona desert with I had 1 water bottle that I had to carry, and I didn't have any gels or anything. I just jumped in for 20 miles of pacing with no preparation, but it went well enough. And he got his first 100-mile finish, and so I called him Buster, and he said he was going to leave a review about the birds that I enjoy and making fun of that. So this is to say, if you are willing to write a review, I'm willing to pace you. That kind of rhymes too. It's almost like a poem. Okay, 1 more review. 10 stars, exclamation point. 5 stars for the podcast. 5 stars for your generous help in getting Kyler across the finish line for his first 100-miler. Insert Santa emoji because I was dressed as Santa. So we'll read some more reviews later on, but I just wanted to hit on those because I thought they were funny, and it's been a month of forgetting to read some reviews. So I'll sprinkle them throughout, but if you want to leave a 5-star review and write something funny, I will read it. So that will be a good time. All right, this is Jeff Pelletier. Some cool things are happening this coming year. I'm not allowed to announce anything. In fact, I have some more Jeffs coming that are really good, entertaining Jeffs, but I have some parameters on what I can talk about now. It's contract season. People are moving all over and stuff and announcing new brands or new industries or new partnerships and stuff like that. And so it's a cool time of year, but it's one when you operate knowing things but not able to say things. All right, let's jump into this. I have some notes and some podcast things that I'll put in on a different episode. I'm ready to just get into Badwater talk. All right, we're back with the Free Outside Show and another Jeff. We would have talked to him earlier this year, but we save all our Jeffs for December. So it's catch-up time with Jeff Pelletier. Did I get that right?
You got it right. Yeah. 8 times the charm.
Yeah, I know. Usually you just like kind of mumble through the end of it and it's close enough. But you had a big year. What did you do in 2025?
I had a big year. We did a lot of travel as usual. A lot of fun stuff like pacing for you and crewing at Coca-Dona. But for me, racing wise, I ran 2 big races, the Badwater 135 and then the Mammoth 200, the inaugural year. So 2 very different races. So yeah, really exciting year all around.
Yeah, I want to dive into Badwater because it's kind of insane. What drew you to that race to begin with? Because it is one I'm personally not drawn to.
And it's funny because I think I feel a little bit like the core of the community has kind of fallen out of love with Badwater over the years. But it's still kind of held, like it was always on my list because it was one of those big races I heard about when I first started trail running like 15 years ago. It was back when all the personalities, the David Goggins and the Dean Karnassus, I should say, and Scott Jurek, like that. Those were the guys I was looking up to. And Badwater was like this legendary race. I very quickly fell in love with other events like Hard Rock and, some kind of more bigger mountain races. And I feel like, we kind of lost, as a community, I think, again, kind of lost the love a little bit for Badwater, but it always still kind of had I think I was always curious about it mainly because you don't really see much, you don't really hear much about it. So my perspective was, I want to document it as I always do. And I want to tell the story, the version of it I haven't really seen, which is like the logistics, the crewing, and the kind of just like, how does this kind of weird event work? And that's what we did. We documented it. I'm working on that edit as we speak.
Yeah. And it's like maximum level crewing. It requires way more than any other race, right?
So first of all, there's no aid stations. So
None,
it's all on your crew. And then the nature of the race being the hottest place in the world, the hottest time of the year, requires more crew than normal. So it's like doubly hard. I would actually say, and we can get more into this, the crewing aspect, I would say confidently it's the hardest race in the world to crew.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. Let's go into that. What do you mean by this? Is it just responsibilities and it's so remote too?
So, well, that too, but I talked to a friend of mine, Simon, who had run it beforehand. And I said, like, my kind of question was like, would you do it again? Like, I could ask him if he enjoyed it, but it's like, would he do it again? And he's like, I would run it again, but I would never ask my wife to crew it again. He's like, if somebody called me tomorrow and said they've got the crew, they've got, pacers, everything lined up, he would do it. And I see exactly now why. So first of all, it's a long way to go. It's hard to get to, it's in Death Valley. It's expensive. You got to fly people down there, rent vehicles, hotels. There's not a lot of places to stay. So it's kind of like a whole thing, right? And then when they're actually there, they're in the heat as well. I mean, they're in an air-conditioned vehicle a lot, but they've got to kind of do some heat training, prepare for it. But they're on the entire time. Because as I said, there's no aid station support, and you have to have a crew vehicle with you at all times. And there has to be at least 2 people who can legally drive in that vehicle. So that's the minimum crew size. In practice, people have typically 3, if not 4 crew, but you always have to have at least 2. And they typically will see you every kind of 2 to 3 miles. That's the kind of regular routine for 135 miles. So they're just basically leapfrogging. They're not allowed to drive beside you, but they're leapfrogging. And they're on the entire time because, some sections take you a little bit longer, but it's roughly every sort of 10 to 15 minutes they're seeing you. So there's never like, compared to Coca-Dona, Moab, where there's like, it's a lot of hurry up and wait, right? It's a lot like drive to the next aid station and then you might have 3 hours to kill. So you have lunch, you have a nap. There's none of that in Badwater. You're on the entire time, trying to nap in the car in the heat. So they were sleeping like, it was like a lot of power naps, like, 2-minute naps where they could get it. Not a lot of food options. I mean, there's like literally 50 miles in between gas stations. So they're trying to figure out, okay, how much gas do we need for the next thing? Like we got to buy ice, like buy some crappy gas station sandwiches. So in that way, it's totally different, way harder, a lot more planning, a lot more foresight. And I think it would be a fun thing to experience once as a crew person. I couldn't imagine doing it more than once. And there are people who go every year. They volunteer. They're like, who needs a crew? They just love it there. But honestly, it was so much work for Audrey. She had a good time. She as my crew chief, she's glad she got to see it, but she's like, never again. That was a one and done. I don't care what you say. We're not going back.
And you also document everything. So you had the normal amount everyone's doing, and then you also had lined up because Derek was down there filming, right? Too. And so you had
Derek Lytle, my usual partner in crime. And so what it meant was he took up a spot in the vehicle. So he was one less crew person because he can only do so much. Plus he had his camera gear. But really what it meant was it put more pressure on the crew because it was just one less person who could take turns driving and take turns doing things because he was filming the whole time.
Wow. So everyone's exhausted at the end of this. It's not like can anyone even drive once you get to Whitney Portal?
Everybody was so tired, and kind of like, I don't, just kind of making bad decisions and kind of like just nobody was really on it. Right. We were kind of trying to work as a team. And so it was kind of funny, and you'll see it in the film, a little bit of like, we ended up, I actually got a time penalty during the race, or the crew got a time penalty. There's a whole bunch of rules. We can talk more about that. And they pulled over in the wrong spot. They were like 200 meters short of where they were allowed to pull over. Got a time penalty of 15 minutes. And so you have to basically like stay in Lone Pine to wait that out. So we ended up just going up to the hotel room because it was literally right there. Like, let's just go have a nap for 25 minutes so the crew can take a break too. And that was just so necessary before doing the final push up to Whitney Portal.
Yeah. Let's get into some of the details. So it's every couple miles that they pull over, but they are designated spots where you're allowed to. So did you have a full itinerary of 60 plus spots where everyone's pulling over?
So not really an itinerary, but like definitely a rule book. Like there's multiple pages describing the entire course, but just tons of rules. And let me preface this by saying, like, this race, I should know this. I can't remember how many years it's been going. Let's say 25 years. So of course, by now, it's one of those things. You go into a bathroom and it says, don't flush paper towels down the toilet. It's because somebody flushed paper towels on the toilet. Same thing with Badwater. There's so many rules because people have just done stupid stuff for years, and they're constantly worried about losing their permits because most of it, I want to say 60, 70% goes through a national park. So Death Valley National Park. So of course, and how many races can you name that go through national parks?
I think
right?
None. Yeah.
None. I mean, so they're grandfathered into this. So they make it very, very clear up front. Chris, the race director, he's like, these rules are here for a reason. They're here so we can have the race next year. And there's park rangers like all over the course watching, making notes of who's violating what rules. So it's like, if you take a dump, you gotta bag it, take it with you. If there's no pulling over in a whole bunch of areas, because it's actually a pretty narrow highway and there's a ton of tourist traffic that goes through there. And there's some sections where there is no pullover, like it's like a cliff, like it's, it goes through a valley. Other places where it's more open. So there's all these rules around leave no trace. There's rules around, again, like crewing and how that vehicle, maximum size of the vehicle, can't be much larger than a minivan. No campers, no this, no that, because of course there's no room to pull over with big vehicles. So even the size of vehicles, everybody's got to have like blinky lights. Like you've got to have at least 2 lights. They have to be green and red. The vehicle needs lights, like just on and on and on. Reflective vests between certain times of the day. So if you get caught without your vest on, that's anybody, crew, pacers, runners. So there's all these rules, all this stuff you have to buy leading up to the race for weeks. And, there must have been 80 emails that went up every couple of days. Another email. It's another thing you got to do. Chris kind of drips out the information because there's so much. So it's like, this week we're going to talk about reflective vests. This week we're talking about wag bags. Oh, you got to buy this. You got to buy that. And at first it feels can feel like a bit of a cash grab. And then you realize like, no, these rules are there for a reason. Because again, it's one of the few races that exist in a national park. I'm surprised, frankly, that it's still happening after all these years, given how many ways that thing could get canceled.
Yeah. And does it start in Badwater Basin and then you run?
Starts in Badwater Basin, so 200 feet below sea level. And then you quickly make your way through the rest of the park, basically. And then you're slowly climbing. And there's actually a lot of climbing. You don't realize it till you look at the profile. Big climbs and then big descents. So you got to train your mountain legs as well, even though it's all on pavement. No navigation. That's the one thing. So it's easy
Was
to
the
navigate.
Pavement aspect hard? It seems like, that could be underrated.
And the fact that there's no navigation, I realize, for me anyway, was one of the hardest parts. This is kind of jumping ahead, but I found it so monotonous, especially at night, because there's nothing to look at. Like during the day, it's actually a beautiful area. The desert is, I'm sure you would agree, beautiful in its own way. Even though you're on pavement, you're in a beautiful park. But at night, all you're looking at is a white line. You're just looking down. Nothing to engage you. You're not looking around to, you're not navigating. You're not even thinking about food because your crew's just handing you stuff and saying, drink this, drink this. So there's nothing really to think about. There's no problems to solve as a runner. And so I just found, and it's a night start as well. So you're starting at 10 p.m. So by the second night, you've been awake for like 40 hours. So I found that to be the most difficult thing. And I was really falling asleep and feeling unengaged, frankly, bored.
Yeah.
because of the fact that you're just running in a straight line. And so I think there's, yes, it makes it easier on paper, but give me a bit of navigation any day.
Yeah. Do you get a pacer or anything, or is it all solo?
So you're allowed pacers starting at, I don't remember off the top of my head, let's say, 50 miles in, whatever it is. So you're allowed pacers, and they have to wear the vests and all that kind of stuff too. And there's no safety issue because the crew's with you the whole time. There's no navigation issues. So the pacer's really just there to keep you awake, really.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite national parks, but mostly because where you can go from that road, not necessarily on that road. Was it engaging how much it kind of changes too? I mean, maybe every 30 miles, but you start Badwater Basin, you get Furnace Creek, Stovepipe Wells, and then you kind of jump over and you get to see the Sierra. Was that the engaging part? Because you're not looking for roots or rocks. The ground is pretty much going to be the same the whole way.
Yeah, that definitely was nice because you're slowly, I mean, there's, like I said, a couple big drops, but it's a net ascent, of course. You start at negative 200, you end at, what was it?
8,000 maybe? 9,000.
8,000, I think just over 8,000 feet at Whitney Portal. Yeah. So a very long but gradual climb with a big punch at the end, which you basically a hike up to Whitney Portal. And the best part was not only were the views getting better, but it was getting a little bit cooler as you went. So you always knew, like, I just got to make it through another whatever number of hours, and sure enough, it would get a little bit cooler and a little bit cooler. So you had that to like look forward to. So yeah, kind of a nice format, and again, like a surprisingly high amount of elevation change. Like if that was a trail race, that would be, it would be up there as far as mountainous terrain, I guess. But the fact that it's on pavement, again, it's like in one way that's easier because it's just like you're just shuffling. That's hard on the body. That's hard on the feet.
Really hard. Yeah. Did you wear a road shoe then?
So I wore the Mount to Coast R1. They sponsored me for the film, and it worked perfectly. I didn't have any foot problems at all. It was actually the R130.
It's white. It's white too.
They came up with one called the R135 just for Badwater, and it was the Badwater edition. They actually gave everybody a pair of shoes in the race, which is super good marketing for an influencer heavy race. And it was actually a little bit blue, which is blue is better for reflecting UV. Studies have shown with a like glow in the dark, like a highly reflective outsole as well for at night.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And I mean, we kind of buried the lead. The heat is one of the biggest factors in this race. How hot did it get for you? And how did you manage to get your body ready for this while living in Canada, where it's probably always snowing, right?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say, Sally McRae was there, and she wasn't racing, but she was there actually documenting, helping make a film. And to put other things she said, she's like, yeah, you guys are lucky. You've got a cool year this year. It wasn't that cold. Trust me. It was 125 degrees Fahrenheit, like over 40 degrees Celsius. But that was considered a cool year because it gets up to 135 some years, which is like, she said, like, it can actually get so hot that it's dangerous. Whereas like around 125, it's bearable. You can manage it. Right. So we started out at night. It was about 40 degrees Celsius overnight, which I think is again between 120 to 125. And that was in Badwater Basin. It got down to about 35 degrees Celsius, like with wind chill. So maybe like 115, I think.
Dropped
but then it got
to 115.
But then it started, as we were climbing up to the mountain pass, coming out of
Stovepipe Wells, probably,
or was it Penamint Springs? But I remember we were like, it's going to get cooler, and it got hotter. It got up to like mid 40s. So that's when it got up like to about 125 again. And then that was during the heat of the day. So it was fluctuating basically between mid 30s to mid 40s. And it feels like a blow dryer, right? Like it's like this warm heat that's blowing
like
in
an
your
oven.
face.
Yep.
Like an oven. It feels like an oven, but like, again, even when there is a wind, it's like this warm wind. You feel the heat off the pavement. The whole thing about your shoes melting, I think that's a little bit overblown. The idea that you got to run on the white painted line because your shoes melt. I don't think that, but it was pretty hot, and it definitely, you can feel the heat off the pavement. So it's all about ice and water. And I will say that I learned, like, the other reason I want to do Badwater is because I feel like, I don't know, sometimes races, they start to get, I mean, the courses vary, but the the challenge itself of just going out there and running 100 miles, once you've done it a few times, you can do it. So I think at this point, especially from a storytelling perspective, I like the idea of exploring like extremes. It's like doing the hottest race, doing the highest race, doing I'd love to run Leadville because it isolates, it seems, elevation. Like other than the elevation, it's a fairly runnable course. So same with Badwater. If it wasn't for the heat, it's just running on the road for a while. So I like this idea of isolating a variable. And I think Badwater does that well. It allows you to just really focus on the primary challenge, which is the heat. And of course, there's like a trickle down effect. The heat affects your stomach. I mean, the sweat loss, the amount I was having to drink, which we can talk more about, and the electrolytes I was having to consume, even that can be a problem just to get that much liquid in. Like you end up just like the motion of drinking becomes, and I was warned about this, becomes like, you just don't want to have to swallow liquid anymore. You've been doing it for hours and hours and hours, just force feeding yourself liquid constantly. The grams and grams and grams of salt I was taking with that. I think I did 40 grams of sodium, we figured, in the entire thing.
Oh my gosh.
Just crazy amounts of, we were measuring all this stuff and weighing myself, like we were doing all this stuff along the way. So I treated it like a science experiment, really isolating that variable of heat and heat management, fluid intake and fluid management. And in that way, no race will ever be this hot for me. And I don't think hydration will ever be like, I feel like I've got that part figured out, like I could run Western now and just do the same, but a little bit less, like a little bit less fluid, a little bit less ice and water management. So we were doing, you see people with the spray bottles, and we were told, and by another runner who's like, forget the spray bottle, buckets of ice with a sponge. That's the quickest way to do it. And so by like 4 hours in, we were like, no, he was right. Get the sponge, just buckets of cold. Forget the spray bottle, because the spray, it evaporates as quickly as it's hitting your skin. It's not even doing anything. So just staying wet, staying cold, ice under the hat. I had an ice bandana from East Peak, a California company that's making those bandanas you're seeing everywhere. I think Killian used it at Western. And then ice in my arm sleeves, like under my sleeves. So basically ice everywhere you can, staying wet, and with ice water, and then again, tons of fluid intake. And that's kind of all you can do. And you're just rinse and repeat.
I remember you did a number of tests too on, I think it was like sweat concentration and maybe like fluid loss. What was, why did you do those? How did those factor in? More for the audience, because of course I know all about this.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. So I did it all during training. And that was kind of part of the story, part of the learnings, part of the challenge for this race was the prep. And so it was, first of all, I was doing heat training. So using like the heats, my own heat suit for a while. Then I got one sent by Core Sensors, who make a dedicated heat suit. And I was using the Core sensor as well to measure heat adaptation, lots of sauna training. But along with that was like measuring my fluid loss. So getting on a scale before and after to see how much volume I'm losing, but more importantly, or as important, the concentration of sodium. So one of the tests I did was with Precision. They do it. A lot of the brands, they all use the same method, and you actually measure your sweat at rest and instead of when you're exercising. And it measures the concentration of sodium in your sweat, which apparently is genetically, you're genetically predisposed to that. So it doesn't change much during your life or because of other variables. So in other words, the volume of sweat you lose can fluctuate depending on a number of factors, the environment, your level of training and heat adaptation, your diet, all sorts of things. But the concentration of the sodium within that sweat doesn't change. So the result is I know not necessarily how much to drink, but when I'm drinking, how much sodium I need relative to that water intake. And that's super important. When you're drinking 2 liters an hour, like I was at times, I was drinking so much fluid that I could have become hyponatremic. That's too much water, not enough sodium in a matter of hours, to a dangerous level. I could have, people end up in the hospital. Again, when you're drinking literally gallons of water, or liters and liters and liters of water in a day. So it was that much more important at that scale. And that's where, again, I went into it with this plan of, theoretically, my results were I need about 1 gram of sodium per liter of water. I'll let you do the imperial conversion on that, which is easy. It's like, cool. So roughly 1 gram per liter. And, I was drinking primarily NAC, which has, I think it's about 400 milligrams per
Mm-hmm.
per liter. So I had to just supplement that with a couple of salt pills. And I had a friend with a clipboard keeping track.
Perfect. Yep.
And it was like, let's put this to the test over the course of a day and a half. And I mean, I either end up in the hospital or I don't. And in the end, and we were also measuring, we had a scale. So I was measuring
Mm-hmm.
every 8 hours or so my weight loss. I only lost 3 or 4 pounds. So that was pretty good at the end of all that.
That's really
right?
good. Yeah.
We were even tracking how much I was peeing, how often I was peeing, which is roughly every 4 hours or so. So we had all these metrics. And in the end, it kind of came out of it with like, those numbers seem to track after all that.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of fluid. I wasn't super dehydrated, nor did I have a lot of fluid retention after the race. So it was kind of like the ultimate way to create a theory and then test that during the most intense way to test fluid and electrolyte loss.
Totally. And you could see like fluid retention would be like oversalting, and then, you know, with measuring your weight too. That's so interesting. And that's such a, because I think we can all get these tests and we have these numbers, but to put it into effect, and now you have ultimate confidence in those numbers moving forward.
Totally.
That's pretty cool.
Totally. And it's putting it to the test in the most extreme way. Like there's no, like, you know, a couple of hour run, you don't even need to drink. 8 hours. Yeah. You know, even 100 miles, some people run those pretty quickly. So it took being out in the heat for, you know, in my case, it was a little over 32 hours in the end. And having to drink that much. We were tracking protein. I should say, actually, my friend who did that, he's a doctor. So he's a guy I went to high school with, and he's a doctor. He's in the Army as a medic. He's an ultra runner as well. And he's been reaching out. Well, he reached out years ago and said, "Hey, I've been watching what you're doing. If ever you need a doctor, a medic for an event, let me know. I'm totally there." And I was like, my first instinct was like, dude, they have doctors at these races. Yeah. You don't need somebody. Come on. But this one, they actually say, we recommend having a nurse or an EMT or a medic on your team. So I was like, okay, hey, Paul, what are you doing? What are you doing this summer? And he's like, I'm there. Because he saw it as the perfect opportunity. So he did a bunch of research in advance. We did some blood work leading up to it. And he was tracking, like I said, he was tracking everything. Oh, he had pee strips. So I was peeing on his pee strips every 4 hours or so to check for rhabdo. So he was checking for blood in the urine using these pee strips, and he expected some. So he had a range that he figured was tolerable. And he's like, yeah, we're starting to see some, but this is normal. Like rhabdo is like as he explained it, it's a spectrum. It's not a binary thing, you know?
Okay.
So we did that, and we did that before as a baseline. We did it right after the race as well. Then he gave me some so I could track my levels of rhabdo in the 2 or 3 days after to make sure that subsided quickly as he expected it would. And it did. So again, we were collecting data along the way with the help of a medic, which made it really interesting. So yeah, I saw it as part opportunity to tell a story, test myself, but also like collect data and kind of like share the story of that data collection.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're so fascinating, is it's like, well, I could just do Badwater 135, or I could collect all this data and make a film about it as well. And I think that's the fascinating part on how your mind can kind of work in 3 different buckets at the same time on like, I want to know the results of this data. I also want to perform well, and you have great results too. And you also want to have a film to come out subsequently too. Does it feel like they ever work against each other? Does it feel overwhelming with how much is going on? Like headed into Badwater, it seems like a full-time job just organizing crew and crew stops and itinerary alone, yet you're wanting to probably have at least a rough idea of shot lists and a story you're going to tell at the same time.
Yeah. So in this one, I decided not to film as much as I normally do, because I figured Derek's literally going to be there every 2 miles. Like it's not like I'm out for hours at a time where I need to fill in the gaps. So yeah. I gave myself a break by not carrying a camera for most of it and not doing a lot of filming myself. But we were stopping and doing stuff to the camera at the aid stations. But where I think it might have hurt me a little bit was in the lead up to the race, like the day or two before. Because, of course, I'm running around getting content, shooting interviews. I should be staying out of the sun. We're messing around, filming on the way to the race. I remember like we got to the race. So they did waves. I was in the 3rd wave, but we got there early because we wanted to film the other 2 waves. So, of course, I'm out in the heat. I'm doing all this stuff. Sally, who I mentioned was there, was like, dude, you should be in the air-conditioned vehicle with your feet up. What are you doing? And she kind of gave my crew a hard time. Like, guys, you should be taking care of them. But I'm like, I'm in producer mode. I'm getting B-roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, you're 100% right. What am I doing? I should be cooling my core temperature down, not watching the other two waves start. So great example of, unfortunately, one of the sacrifices we make as
Yeah.
filmmakers.
Well, I mean, that's part of it, but also probably why your films are so amazing too, is, you can't be perfect at everything at the same time, I guess.
No, I guess not. And also, admittedly, some of the reasons I get invited to these races, I mean, maybe Chris would have let me in either way. I'd like to think so. I think my resume is pretty stout at this point, but the fact that I was going to film it might have been part of why I got accepted into the race as well. So I can't forget that.
Yeah. So let's go to the end and then we'll wrap up Badwater. What does it feel like when you're kind of leaving Lone Pine and it's just a strong, steady climb and you're probably not feeling too hot on the way to Whitney Portal?
Oh man, unfortunately it was it's one of those grades where you probably could run it on fresh legs, but I was told that most people were hiking it, and they said the fastest runners will do it in 3 to whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was now, if it was 3 to 3.5, and I think I was right around 3.5. And so if maybe I'm off on that, but anyway, we're kind of right within that window. I was power hiking, but I didn't really run much of that last leg, and it was one of my worst finishes. And part of the theme of this film is going to be sometimes I get the feedback that in my films, I'm sort of I always try to show that I'm doing things perfectly. I always have a plan and I execute it. And maybe I don't set the bar high enough as part of it. I'm afraid to fail. So I sort of maybe let myself off a little bit sometimes. But I want to do things right. I want to set realistic goals and I want to achieve them. I don't always swing for the fences necessarily, but also maybe I don't let myself be vulnerable. There's some truth in that and some of that feedback. And so for this one, we set a pretty aggressive A goal and a pretty good B goal too. And I didn't even hit that one. Okay. So I was going for a C goal, and that was the first time that's ever happened to me. I usually hit my A goal, if not my B. And so I was feeling a little defeated. And in the end, I still finished, I believe, 25th out of 100. So, I mean, not bad, but I was aiming for, top 10, whatever. And a much faster finish, much faster. We were aiming for 24 to 25 hours, and I finished in 32.5. So I felt pretty defeated in that whole second night, and then that morning climbing up to Lone Pine. Now, one thing we tried to, Derek and I always have this kind of thing where it's he wanted me to finish for the sunrise, which I did, because we wanted that beautiful footage, right? So it was that joke of don't finish too early, don't finish at midnight. We won't be able to film it. Yeah. So there was a little bit of that, whereas we were hiking up, and I had my buddy Floris, who was pacing with me, and I was saying, this is beautiful. This what a beautiful way to finish in one of the most beautiful areas, climbing up into the Sierra. So there was that. But I think also, I like to think, and this is going to be a theme in the film, that I succeeded by failing for the first time. I set an aggressive enough goal. I swung for the fences, and I think in hindsight, it was too aggressive, my A goal. My B goal should have been my A. Yeah. And it's just given my heat training or lack of living in a hot place, my lack of experience in that kind of weather, and the fact that we only went down there a day before instead of the weeks planned, because we moved the week before into a new apartment. So it was a whole mess right beforehand. There's all that stress. But I guess in that way, I succeeded to fail. And in that, there's a success in that as well. And this will be the first film or the first story I tell where it's kind of me, kind of defeated. And yet I finished in the top 25 percentile. I mean, it's, but yeah, it's all relative to kind of what your goals are for an event.
What did it feel like the couple weeks after knowing that you did kind of let yourself down on this goal, maybe unrealistic or not? Was it a different kind of low than you've experienced before?
I was a little bit I don't want to say embarrassed, but I wasn't as excited about talking about the race as I normally would be. But it did kind of drive me a little bit because I had a pretty quick turnaround to then gearing back up for Mammoth. So in a way, it kind of made me think I gotta lick my wounds here and start training again. And now I got to shift to a full mountain race, a mountain 200 miler. So I kind of didn't give myself too much time. I got moving pretty quickly after that.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's always helpful to have the next thing on the schedule too. So before we head into Mammoth, let's talk about pacing Cocodona, because that was your first time down there, right?
It was my first time at Coca-Dona. Was it my first time in Arizona? Maybe too. And Oh, what a great course. And it was the first time we really got to hang out. Like we had
Mm-hmm.
talked to each other and, over podcasts and stuff, but it was just kind of it was just a fun week all around.
And then because you're running it this year, right? This coming year? Oh,
no.
You're not. I thought you were.
No.
Darn.
Maybe next
so
year.
What was it next year? Okay. Shifting things, goals, everything. But what about it? Yeah. What about it made you want to run it? Was it something on the radar before? And then did it exceed expectations? What was it kind of like being a part of it's relatively new, but it's just exploded in popularity?
Yeah. Well, there's two things. One is the course itself. I love a good point to point. And it feels like you're running across the state. You're running across most of it. And the terrain just changed so much, even though I paced you I think I paced about 40 miles in sections in total, something around that. And different sections of the course, but we were driving along the course the entire time. So I saw the whole course from start to finish, and the terrain just varies so much. So that's the one thing. I love a good point to point in that way, where you feel like you're on a real journey. Like it's not just running a course or a race. It's like you're traversing terrain. And then the second thing was the hype. I mean, the live stream, the buzz around the race is just so cool. It's infectious. And I love the idea of a race that your friends and family can spectate from afar when you're doing it. So that really appeals to me too. I did get that at the Mammoth, fortunately, but they had a great live stream there as well. And I think there's something about that where you feel that sort of support that you're getting from the community. It's not just like going off and doing something in the mountains and then, you got to like write a postcard about it. Like, it's like it's happening in real time. Like it feels like the perfect marriage between these like remote mountain adventures that we do and this kind of whole digital opportunity to engage digitally with the community.
Yeah. Well, we buried the lead because not only did you pace, you also turned around and raced right after you were done pacing a day too.
Yeah.
So.
I did the Flagstaff 39 as kind of more of a training run, so that was like collectively I was trying to do like a 100-mile week that week. That was in lead up to Badwater, I guess. So
yeah, it's a bit of a brutal turnaround, like not take care of your body super well and then race a 40-miler at the end of that.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't get sick, especially considering what was going around that week.
Yeah, we had some COVID. We brought That's COVID to the party. Let's move into Mammoth. So inaugural year, and it looked like a little bit of everything, and it was so unique in the fact that it seemed like based on where people finished, they could get a totally different race experience. And I don't think I've seen that in a while on how drastically different that was.
Yeah, and so I finished in 58 hours, I want to say, and perfect weather the whole time.
Okay. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then I think I finished, was it around dinner time? And then the next morning or that night, they got hit with a massive rainstorm. In fact, as I was finishing, weather was moving in. I got to Minaret Vista, which is the last crew accessible aid station. You then climb up to the top of Mammoth Mountain for the second time. We can talk more about the course, but basically I was on that final stretch, but had another big climb back up to Mammoth Mountain at 11,000 feet before I dropped down to the finish. So I had like 18 miles left or whatever it was. And they were like, okay, there's a yellow warning or a yellow hold, which means it's up to you if you want to keep going, but like you could wait here. And I'm like, it's up to, so I was like, just to be clear, I can go. And like before the guy could finish his sentence, I'm gone. It's like as if I'm going to stop at Minaret Vista. And,
you're 50 hours in. You're not going to make the decision to stay.
Oh, come on. And like not finish, especially since like I was on a tear at that point, trying to make up spots. So I finished, and it was still nice. And then within a few hours, and by that night, it was just like torrential. And then it was snowing, hailing. And I think they did end up having to hold people for a while, like a good stretch. And
I had an athlete that had a 7-hour hold. So you missed out on, a big hold.
Yeah. So it paid to finish quickly in that one, as it usually does in these races.
Yeah, it's wild. So how was the course and how did it go for an inaugural year race, which are always interesting?
Overall, the event was great. There was definitely some learnings, and they Hillary and Tim and the rest of the team, I know they took that to heart. Some work can be done in the aid stations. There's some things that often are the case in a first year event. Overall, the course was great, though. The event was great, I should say. The course itself, it's a beautiful area. The course
Yeah.
itself is on a lot of dirt road, a lot of double track. It skirts the wilderness area in this massive caldera, basically. So you're always looking around at, there's beauty everywhere. You're not always on the most beautiful, rugged terrain. I mean, this is US 200 milers for the most part. I was looking up at some ridges thinking, if this was Tour des Géants, we'd be up there on those ridges. But it's different. It's different in Europe. So you're looking over at the John Muir Trail. You're not running on the John Muir Trail. You're looking up at some of these peaks. But having said that, you go through some beautiful, forested areas. We go over these really cool different features, like these like lava cones, like just some really cool stuff. It's visually, it's quite a cool course, as you'll see from the film we made, because I had both Derek Lytle and Drew Darby, so two of the best in the business, working for me shooting. So we had both of their drones up in the air shooting at the aid stations. And I'm just looking back at some of that footage, like incredible. So worst case, my film was going to be like an hour of just pure trail porn, just from one of the most beautiful regions, in California. At altitude though, for a lot of it. So let me try to remember my numbers here. So I think we were around, was it 7,000 feet at Mammoth Lakes Resort, and then climbed up to 11,000 feet right at the beginning of the race. You drop back down again, you're running around, and then you climb back up to 11 at the end. So it kind of is like bookended by these two big climbs on and those are nice single track. You're on like the mountain bike trails with a massive run in the middle around this caldera. Very similar actually to Moab 240 in that way, where it sort of feels like this sort of like, a little more technical. Well, I guess Moab 240, you have the two climbs, but one of them's in the middle, but kind of similar where it's sort of a tale of maybe 3 races or even 4. Maybe there's like 4 sections on that. Lots of just cool stuff along the way. Different lakes, you see different like formations. The other thing that set this race apart is it's very well supported. So there was an aid station every like 7 miles, basically for the whole race. And none of the aid stations were more than a 1-hour drive from Mammoth Lakes.
Whoa.
So it was super easy to crew, really accessible. Couple of the aid stations, you needed, some soft sand, you needed a good vehicle, but it's rare in that way. And I think that's why it's going to become such a key event, because it is so accessible, which makes for some fast running, because it's a fast course, highly crewable, great for pacers, great for crew access. And I think we're just going to we saw some blazing fast times out there, Jimmy, Rachel, and I think we're going to see a lot of competition at the front, maybe for that reason only.
Yeah. And I think there's prize money too. But
and there's prize money. Yes.
So going from Badwater, which may have, finished, but slightly disappointing. How did you reset, or what did you set as the goal with a quick turnaround in a completely opposite type of event, which is strange because the start of Mammoth is not too far from the finish of Badwater.
Isn't that funny? If you look on the map, they're so close. They're actually it's actually a long drive, but because everything's a long drive there. You're either going around mountain passes, but yeah, they were actually really, really close, which is funny. We went to California 3 times this year for both of my races were in California. The challenge was the altitude, and I knew that would be the case because I didn't have time. We were in Europe right before. We were there for Chamonix. We ran Tour de Mont Blanc again. We took a group around the TMB. Which, you get up to like 2,600 meters, but you're not up there for very long. So I knew the altitude would be a problem, and it was. So this race was the first time I've ever puked in a race, and I'm pretty sure it was the altitude. Yeah.
You didn't puke at Badwater? No puking?
No. Wow. I was actually kind of proud of myself. Like I was like kind of celebrating, like it's a first, right? Like there's a first for everything. My stomach wasn't cooperating, and usually my stomach is my like secret weapon, or like my, that's my superpower, I should say. I can eat anything. I can eat tons of it. That wasn't the case at Mammoth. I was having a hard time. So that was something new. And I think it was the altitude. So if I could do it again, it would have been maybe more altitude training. But generally the people who did well there, they live in Boulder, Flag, the usual.
Salt Lake. Yeah.
Salt Lake. Yeah. So they're used to that kind of running fast at altitude, which is what you need to be able to do on this course. I had kind of lost confidence a little bit, maybe in a good way though. Like it kind of taught me to maybe go back to like my idea of like, let's set some realistic goals. This was a deep field. It was the deepest field I'd lined up to, I think, out of 200 well, I've only done, I guess, one other American 200, but it was the deepest field I'd lined up in it in a while, where I kind of knew a lot of the names, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh, this could be. So I was just aiming to crack top 10. And then I kind of see what would happen at the front, let them race it out, let the
Yeah.
9 people ahead of me race it out and see who drops or something, who falls back. Um, Other than that, it was kind of just like my usual, a lot can happen over 215 miles. So just run my own race and see what happens.
Yeah, totally. Did you have more nerves going into this too? Did you need like a confidence booster type of race at this point?
Maybe again, I did sort of lose that a little bit. But at the same time, I think I feel more comfortable at those longer distances, because you don't have to push it too much. Like, you just got to go out 1 foot in front of the other. Like, I don't need to have the gas down the entire time.
Hmm.
There's time to come back. And so in a way, I kind of felt more back in my own kind of, I don't know, comfort distance, being a
Yeah.
200 plus mile race. I've done it enough times now that I feel like I have the experience. And some people were going up pretty fast, and I'd see them, I saw them day and a half later.
Yeah.
And
Well, you
then
saw
I was able to make
Coca-Dona.
up.
It just
Exactly.
like people just fall apart at the front. It's
And
just
you knew
such a
it.
long
Like,
time.
you had some difficulties there, but even that, I think I got a sense from you where you're like, either way, I'm going to do my thing, run my race. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not going to change your plan just
Well,
because
my
people are
plan
going up high.
changed 60
I mean, your
miles
plan had
in.
changed. Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is the fun thing of 200s is you get like a second life or a rebirth. And as long as the mindset, I think you just have to have such a strong reason for wanting to finish. And then beyond that, do your best. And if that's not tied to something so outlandish, like you can really make up time, you can come back, and persistence really pays off versus like a 100 miler or something. If things go wrong early, you're not going to see the front people ever
No,
again.
exactly. Even Badwater, like, there were some people who I could tell it was a different culture. It was a different breed. I didn't know anybody, looking at the entrance list, I didn't know anybody's names, because it's its own world. Those runners, they do those kind of events, and that's all they do. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure most of the runners there aren't going off and doing hard rock next year. Like, it's its own culture. And the people who run a race like Badwater are good at running a race like Badwater.
Yeah.
Faster, more running heat. Whereas again, with Mammoth, looking at that entrance list, like, it was pretty deep. So,
Yeah.
I wasn't exactly about to go and try to beat Rachel and Tara and Jimmy and, Max. Yeah, kind of did our own thing. We had a good plan, and my goal was, I set a goal of 58 hours. The other challenge, it was the first year, so we didn't have splits, we didn't have expected
Exactly.
times, we didn't have a lot to go off of. So I kind of just intuitively set a goal of 58, and I ran 5 minutes below that. So nailed it.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's so interesting with the rise of these 200s too. And even so, we got like the inaugural year of Monster 300,
Yep.
and then Mammoth 200. Is you think that it's niche, and it still is, but it's becoming more and more of this draw, and they're all continuing to sell out. Are you seeing the same popularity in films or things around these longer races versus maybe the tried and true soft rock or hard rock type of thing? Are you seeing increased interest in the 200 side as well?
Yeah, I think there's more awareness about it. Like, I'm getting less people when I talk about these races, fewer people going like, what? Like, I wouldn't even drive that
Mhm.
far. More people going, oh, cool. Yeah, I've heard of these big events, So I feel like
Yeah.
there's an awareness amongst the general population now, whereas it used to be that 100 miles was crazy, and then you'd say 200 and it was, they couldn't even comprehend it. I think people have kind of heard about this enough now. Maybe it's just my friends who aren't they're not impressed anymore when I tell them
Yeah.
about the stuff. But oh, I thought you ran 240 last time. Yeah, but I think there's more awareness, but also I think there's just more opportunity for storytelling in these long distances. There's
Mhm.
tends to be more movement in the field. There's more blow ups and comebacks, and I think that's where we are seeing more stories come out, and the stories are resonating, I think, more. I think counterintuitively, the live streams as well, they're so long, and yet
Yeah.
there's something compelling about it, because you can like go to work, maybe check in at lunchtime, like come home and like, oh, I wonder what's happening in Cocodona. Pop in, who's doing what? Oh shit, this person blew up. This person came back. This person's making a move. go to bed the next morning, check in again. Like there's this like,
Yeah.
you can like really follow these things for a few days and sink your teeth into it in the way that like, I don't know, you might follow the Olympics for a week versus like one event, right? It feels more like because I think 100 milers, especially the fast ones, like when they're over in 12 hours, it's hard to, you have to kind of be there to feel like you're following it.
Yeah. And I think 200s or 250 or now 300, you like get to know and almost relate to these people on, oh, they're taking a Stroop waffle at every aid station now, or they're having troubles. Like you get to see a vulnerable side. Whereas at Western states, you just see this front facing thing of people running 7-minute miles like deep into the race, and you don't know the adversity they've gone through till the end. I think 200 is so far that even the winner is going to have some tough moments.
Seeing Ryan Sands take a nap during Cocodona, it's like, wow, he is human, right?
Yeah. It's just so, I think, it's the relatability or getting to know people. It's almost like, I think about it like March Madness or anything where it's like out of Olympics is good too. Like out of nowhere for 7 days, the swimming events, you get to know this swimmer, then you see them race these races and you get to know them a little bit more. And by the end of that 7 days, you kind of feel like you know them a little bit. It's that you get this long time to get to see the highs and lows of somebody that, 100 milers are just too short. Hot take.
They're too short. They're too short. And I mean, Mammoth did a great job. I mean, Coca-Dona does this too, but with building storytelling around the race, and they did pre-interviews, and then they brought people into the studio after the race to do post-race interviews while the race is still happening. Like there's still, it does feel like a week-long event in that way. Coca-Dona with the Coca-Dona Chronicles, I mean, they're literally putting out content during the race. That's hard to do. That's hard to do in 100 miles.
It's incredible what they're doing with Cocodona storytelling. So speaking of storytelling, how do you manage making two films so close together, and how do you get them both to completion and figure out when you're going to put them out? It seems like an incredible project you've taken on, and in fact, two of them.
Well, for people who keep messaging me like, hey, man, where's that Badwater film? It's because I've been sitting on it for 3 months because we've been busy doing other stuff. Like, as soon as we finished Badwater, that footage went in the can. And then I moved on to other things. We were traveling, we've been racing. Mammoth came up. And even that, after Mammoth, we went to Peru and we'd been doing stuff. So the short answer is I end up giving myself the off season to do the editing. So I'm aiming to get Badwater done and released in January, and then Mammoth will be out in February. Basically right before we start our season again in March. So that's kind of it. There's just, my bottleneck is the editing right now.
Do you do all the editing yourself still?
I do most of it for both of these films. I had somebody do a rough cut. So Mammoth, I think we had like 13 hours of footage. So giving somebody all that footage, and she cut it down to like 3 hours. So now I can go in and sort of build the story and so doing an initial rough cut really helps, rough assembly, I'll call it. But I still do then, she did 40 hours of work on Mammoth. I'm still going to have another 100 hours to do on that for sure. Maybe more.
Wow. I'm really curious on this, editing it down. When do you come up with the storyline, or do you have an idea and that's what you present and then she cuts it down and then you fine tune it? Or how does that go with outsourcing 13 hours to 3 hours and then you work?
Yeah, for that, it's really, there's no story. There's no real even direction given. It's like, just cut out the bad stuff, really. Like, it's just get rid of all the, the stuff where, I mean, a lot of that is just like Derek might be at an aid station filming, like not knowing which runner is going to be me, or filming B-roll where he's getting the same shot kind of over and over again because the focus wasn't quite right the first time. And, so these things that we do when we're filming, even professionally, that it's, you do need somebody to sort of just like chop it down to what we might call selects, where then it's like, then I have selects to choose from. So when I'm looking for a shot of the sign at the aid station, it's already cleaned up and there's this 6-second shot I can just pull from instead of having to find that shot somewhere. So that's a big part of it. Also, when we have multiple cameras, it's syncing the cameras up. So especially for the start, you can imagine where I'm filming, Derek's filming, Drew's, so it's getting all those angles synced up with the audio. So it might be this 5-minute scene that I can then chop down to 30 seconds. So it's a lot of boring stuff. It's an assembly, we'd call it. Janine, who's doing the rough cut or did the rough cut for Mammoth, she does this professionally for TV shows, like reality shows. So she's used to taking in like 100 hours of footage and doing this rough assembly. So she comes back with like this huge spreadsheet of like shots, things where lists of shots where she's like, you need to have somebody identify these. I'm not sure where this goes. I'm not sure where this goes. I'm missing something. It's all cataloged. Like it's a real process. So, so no, it's not a lot of creative direction yet. I still need to kind of find the story and find the flow.
Okay. All right. A few fun questions here as we wrap up. What was the weirdest thing you did for the camera? Like, did you run back and forth during any of these races or redo like sipping water for a shot? Did you do anything that is pretty funny?
Right away, I'm thinking Mammoth, you go through this cool tunnel. It's like a tunnel under a bridge, like under a highway or something. And it was all lit up with like these purple lights. And I remember running through it. I had my GoPro out because I'm like, oh, what's this? And I got to the end and I see Drew there. And I'm like, oh, I ruined the shot because I had my camera. So I'm like, hold on, I'll go back. And like before he could say anything, I run back, put my camera away because I knew it would be a cool shot. But also because I know from experience, like sometimes focus can be weird when you have all these lights and stuff. So I knew even if he did get it, he might want a second take. And so it's like, it was a cool enough location that it's worth losing a minute to get that shot.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah. So you never feel bad or like you're wasting any effort or anything? You're like, this shot is totally worth it in that scenario?
In the moment, I never regret it. Sometimes, like, if a race comes down to like 5 minits, you know, as it sometimes
You did
does,
have one that came down to 5 minutes.
Then, like, yeah, I start to go like, oh, yeah, it was a minute there, it was a minute there. Like, yeah, you know, but no, I mean, it's kind of fun. And that's that thing that kind of, it's part of that idea of like staying engaged in the moment. Like it's, you know, yeah, you're thinking about how much you're suffering. Yeah, you're thinking, you know, how you could be doing anything else. But there's another project, like we're telling a story, like it's fun. Oh, there's Drew, you know? So it's like, there's this other thing that keeps me engaged and kind of motivates me. So I still think it's a net positive.
Yeah. Is your brain always going on, like, I should say something to the camera about what just happened?
I tend to always be thinking ahead, not always, but again, it is, I am. And again, I'm probably wasting some mental like energy. Like I probably am literally burning calories doing this, just my brain, but I am often thinking like, okay, what happened? Oh yeah, I haven't talked about this factoid that I was going to mention, like about, or, oh yeah, at some point I need to like do a plug for my watch. Like I got to get in a shot of me looking at the watch and navigating, whether it's real or not, you know, so I'll try to think of that, or I'll do something and be like, I think that was a little windy. Like, I don't know if you're able to hear that. So I'll maybe have to do another take and think about where I'm going to, oh, here's a good spot. There's no wind. So I am often thinking about that, little on camera bits I need to get, things I might need to remind the crew of. And then, yeah, sometimes, oh shit, I got to eat too. It's been a while since I drank.
Yeah. It's like a full-time job taking care of yourself, and you're adding in taking video of you taking care of yourself.
Yeah. But again, it keeps me engaged. It makes it fun. It's 2 projects in one in a good way. Like it gives me something to think about. And I really needed to adopt this perspective at Badwater, and I am in hindsight, but I still think about, even if I'm having a bad race, the fact that I'm there to tell a story, then it's like, cool, let's tell the story of how bad this race is. Right. So the first thing I said at Badwater when the crew told me, like, Audrey was so upset. She started to cry when she was telling me about how she got a time penalty. She sat me down. She's like, I got to tell you something. Honestly, I thought I'm like, did a family member die? Like, what is happening? Why are you, you know? And she's like, we got a time penalty. And I'm like, are you serious? That's what you're so upset about? And my first thing I said, did you guys film it? Or did you like, and she, I don't know. I think we did. I'm like, well, make sure you film that. That's part of the story. And I'm like, honestly, guys, this will just add another, you know, it raises the stakes in the story. So frankly, what's 15 minutes? Like it makes for a good story.
Yeah. I mean, so even at the end of Cocodona being sat down and like, we have to tell you a few things. And like, one of them's like, you didn't sleep as much as you thought, but then it's like, and then the biggest thing is, you probably have COVID. A number of other people do here. And it was like, oh, okay. I've had these where it's like, someone had a heart attack. Like this is, you know, we can all get through this. We're healthy, but it's funny how ultra running and these events put things like that in perspective of, 15 minutes. All right. No big deal. We'll work with it.
Well, and it seemed like a big deal when I was like gunning for this specific time. And as soon as that time went gold went out the window, I was like, you know what, at this point, it just makes for a good story. So I think the same thing, like when I was puking, I was like, my biggest regret was not filming that. because I was with my pacer,
Yeah.
Eric, at the time, and I should have handed him the camera while I had my head down because we don't have any footage of it, right? So that's my biggest regret is not filming the puking. Not that it happened, because it's kind of all,
Well,
it's all storytelling.
can you do a reenactment? Like go get some nausea pills and
So
like,
the other thing I didn't film was I started doing dirt naps for the first time in Mammoth. I've always been like, no, you got to sleep in like established aid stations. Quality of sleep matters. And I started doing dirt naps because I was getting so tired. I would
yeah,
nap for like a minute or two, and man, those are good. Those are so
they
good.
feel
I'm a
so
convert.
good.
Feels so
You
good.
saw me doing them. Yeah.
I know. And so I'd set an alarm. Even when I was alone, I would do it. I set an alarm, curl up, and there was like this nice, like, I don't know what you call it, like these brushes that were like kind of soft, kind of like bouncy. So you could like make a bed, have like a 2-minute nap, put my hood on. And I realized like I never set up the camera to film one of these dirt naps. So honestly, we were just in San Antonio for TRE, and I was tempted to go out and try to find some like cactus bushes and like set up a camera and fake it. And I was like, nah, it's too much work. Like I'll say I did a dirt nap, but I was seriously tempted to reenact it.
Have you ever reenacted a shot like that? Like
No.
outside of the, okay.
No. I think the closest thing I would say, there's things I do like, I've faked, for example, I might not have time to do like my gear prep scene or something before, and I'll do it after. But my worry often with these long races is that like I'll be like chapped lips, burnt face, hoarse, lost my voice. And people would be like, that was pretty clearly shot afterwards. So that doesn't really work for like 200-mile races, but I've done stuff like that where I've staged shots, or like the driving scene, we'll do it after on the way out, not on the way in. But I don't think I've ever staged a shot from like during a race.
Okay. All right. 3 quick hitter questions, or maybe you're long-winded. The first one is, you go through tests for various reasons, a lot of different gear. Did you have a piece of gear through all these different environments you raced and traveled in that you really liked this year?
Yeah, the Moab arm sleeve from Path Projects that I helped develop. Best arm sleeves in the market. They've got a built-in watch window on both arms, and like a full coverage of the hands. So like super good for Badwater. You put ice in them, but really good for the Alpine as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're wearing double watches, then both sides is really valuable.
Well, you never know which side you're gonna have your watch on, but yeah, fair enough. You don't really need to. Yeah.
Just giving you a hard time. And what are you up to this next year?
So no luck. We were talking before going on. No luck in the Hard Rock lottery again for me.
Despite 128 tickets.
Yeah, I was hoping this would be my year. So we're going to do, we're starting with a stage race in Croatia in March. We got invited to. We've been looking for an excuse to go there. And then Badwater, finishing under, I think it was under 36 hours or something, qualified me for a race called the Spartathlon in Greece.
I was thinking they would be related.
Yeah. And so that race it's not one that's like been on my bucket list, but I got a buddy named Etienne who just loves that race, and he's kind of convinced me that I should do it. And also it feels like otherwise Badwater is like this isolated thing. So it feels like that, if that can bridge me into this other kind of weird event. And I think the Spartathlon is ripe for storytelling as well. So I think we could tell a good story of that one. So that's in September. And then otherwise, I'm still looking for something else. I think we're going to go down and do Ultra Trail Cape Town in November, because I need a Hard Rock qualifier. So I'm pretty sure that'll be it.
Wow. You're going to have a short editing window, as you say, a short off season next year.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. And then the final question, what is your case for Jeff of the Year?
Well, I think that your FKT on the AT would put you up there for the Jeff of the Year in my book. Wow.
No self-vote of confidence. You didn't cut 200 million hours of footage or anything that makes you unique this year?
How about is there an award for for YouTubers named Jeff?
We create our own awards here, so we can create anything. And
I'll take the Jeff Tuber award. Yeah.
Yeah, you might be. Well, if we make the category small enough, you'll definitely win Jeff Trail Running YouTuber of the Year, probably.
Canadian Jeff Trail Runner, YouTube Trail Runner of the Year. There you go. I'll take it.
That ran Mammoth. And also for your info, 3 Jeffs got into Hard Rock and neither of them were us. So how sad is that?
Yeah, that's not right.
No, I know. Well, thanks so much for joining. It's always great catching up. And I'm really curious to hear more about Cape Town. This was the first year I kind of followed the coverage a little bit, but it looks kind of underrated, actually.
And it
Excited
looks
to.
gnarly too. Like I think it's going to be a hard
Mhm.
one. It's a long way to go. We've been wanting to go down to South Africa for ages, so I can't wait to get down there.
It seems like a
And
really
hopefully,
good story because it's like
yeah,
heat, technicality,
yeah,
climbing, and deep field.
and a different culture. It's a different place of
Mhm.
the world I haven't been to. Hopefully, we'll get out and spend some time. Maybe I can pace you at one of your upcoming events.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to
Crew you
dial in
maybe
my
at
year.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now that we know that we didn't get into any lotteries, we can put our year together.
that's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Happy month of Jeff.
Yeah. Jeff Sember. Thank you for listening to the show. If you want to support, here's some ways. You can watch the podcast on YouTube. There's also other videos up there too. I put up some workouts. I put up some info stuff on the Appalachian Trail. A video on my diet just went up there and what I ate each day. So you can check out the YouTube Free Outside. You can buy the book Free Outside. I've been really bad at getting back to people who want signed copies. So email me again and I will be better. It just a lot of travel. You can watch the movie Free Outside. You can go to the website Free Outside. I think I have a gear list and all tons of resources on there. How to hike a bunch of different trails, 1,000 days worth of daily journals, resources on how to resupply places, mindset. You can subscribe to the Substack, which is also Free Outside. And you can support patreon.com/free outside if you like this. And guess what? I started a Strava club Free Outside. So join that. And what we should do is just like go to club activities and then you should just give each other all kudos since, I think everyone likes kudos. Let's just inflate kudo numbers over there. I also post some fun stuff and well, community. I mean, it's like kind of one sided where sometimes my voice goes out and it's weird the numbers of people that are listening to this. So I thought it'd be fun to have some kind of platform that's can interact on. And I don't know, a lot of the social networking and media apps and things are a lot. So I thought Strava seems pretty tame. And so that's what we got. You can join over there. So yeah, patreon.com to support or shop at Janji, JANJI.com. Use code free outside. Tell them I sent you. They have a bunch of good winter stuff right now. They have jackets, windbreakers, fleece lined tights. They have gloves that are great. They have beanies. Check them out. They're a proud supporter of the show. They're proud to support the show, obviously. And then Garage Grown Gear, anything you could need for Christmas, little knickknacks. There's like these toothbrushes that are tiny that would be great to have in your pack when you're running an ultra or a long run because of all the sugar and gels you're eating that you just want to freshen up. So check those out. And CS Coffee, CS Instant Coffee, premium instant freeze-dried coffee. It's really good. It's good stuff. All right, those are the sponsors. That's the ways you can support. Thanks for joining. I believe we're going to keep voting open for Jeff of the Year and nominating any questions. So the form is down below in the description. Click on that link, fill it out. Then I own your email forever. Hooray me. I will be selling those lists. Just kidding. I would never do that. All right. Stay elite, my friends.